Right guys, welcome back. Another video, another vlog for that fact. I've literally just finished filming for the day with Alex. We just filmed a couple of what I call information or informative videos for the channel. And you can see the setup here with the lights, the camera, teleprompter. I have a nice little gadget here, which I can turn it on and off so I can remember what to say or I can read what I need to say. But for this week's video, I wanted to start down south in my office. Then you can follow me all the way up north. We're going to a few different locations, checking in on a few different refurbs. So follow along, let's go. Well, first of all, look at the outfit that I'm currently in. Not ideal given the current weather. Seen as last week, it was 26 degrees every day and I was stuck in my office. This week, I decided to come out of my office and this is what happens, but you know, it's what it is. Quick coffee break. We're only about 10-15 minutes away from landing in Dewsbury. We're going to meet up with client Chris and check out the finished refurb on his property. As I said, we're in Dewsbury. We're back at one of the buy-to-lets that I visited in a previous vlog. I even stood in front of this kitchen in a big fur coat. Not a fur coat, but a coat, and actually showed you that we were going to obviously redecorate this kitchen, put new worktops on, obviously retile it. There's still a few snags to be done here, as you can see, obviously sorting out the sockets, finishing off the tiling, boxing in the pipe work, putting the handles on the kitchen. There's still a few things to be done, and that's generally the theme here. We've actually come today to meet with the client Chris, who I'll introduce you to, but in terms of what the plan is really, it's to kind of check in because we are at the final stages, but it's just also at the point in which there's still quite a few snags that need to be sorting. So we're taking pictures, we're making notes, and obviously we will be coming back to finish and resolve those works. Moving on to talking about some of those works, you'll also remember me talking about this wall and the one behind me, as we had all the plaster taken back to brick. Obviously we had it tanked and then replastered. Up to about this point we're fine, but some of the damp has crept in from above now, which is actually, we believe, because we're slightly under ground level here, or we are under ground level, and that's actually where the alleyway is, where we think possibly, I think there's possibly some water coming through, a bit of water ingress. So we have to go back, revisit that damp work, which is, it's really important to do this now prior to tenants moving in, then have it to do it further down the line. But overall, really happy with the look. Obviously, you know, new windows throughout the front of the house, new carpets, new lino, which you'll see. I think generally it's a really tidy house for someone to move into. But let's head upstairs. There's like little bits of like skirting, little bits of painting here and there that we're gonna have done. This room, not a huge amount of changes. Blocked up the fireplace, repainted throughout, new double window, or big window. So we'll head straight upstairs as there's not much to note here. Bathroom, see what you can, but is near enough finished. Again, there's a few things to be done. The shower hose, boxing in some of the pipe works, getting the electricity on. You'll remember this door frame from the fact that this is where we knocked through. We split up the main bedroom into a bedroom and a bathroom and made a second bedroom in there. This room's actually really tidy. The window still needs sorting, but generally, nice big window, which is brand new. Good sized double bedroom, probably have the bed coming out this way. And the final room there, which Chris is in, and he's hiding away in here. This was the old bathroom, which again will overlay some previous footage, but it's turned out really nicely, isn't it? Just got to hang the doors on them rather than have them sitting in the rooms, which would be useful. Chris here is obviously the client that's bought this property with the help of Property X, and then myself, or more like Joey, who does the project management, obviously has taken over really the refurb, and I kind of just am involved and oversee. How is it generally as an experience? Are you sort of happy with the overall experience, how that's gone?
Yeah, I have been actually. I think like this is my first buy-to-let or first like refurb process, so I had no idea kind of what it was going to look like, but you can definitely tell that your experience, but particularly Joey, is like, you can tell that he's done a lot of these in the past and his experience really kind of shines through in terms of not just the updates, but the work that's been done. The way you guys have kept me updated has been good. I've known kind of the things that have come up or questions that need to be answered, and know what role I play in kind of this kind of coming to life. Yeah, overall, between yourselves, it's been good.
Oh, good. Pleased to do that. And it's sort of like group WhatsApp, isn't it? Every couple of weeks, send over photos or whatever updates. Only really when it's needed do we then, do you know what I mean, contact you if we need anything, and then obviously pay the invoices, which isn't always...
That's my bit.
Not the funnest part, but it's the necessary part. But
no, I think that's the balance. It's sort of like you guys you do what you need to do, but equally keep in contact in terms of what you need from me, but also the updates and just to see the progress and everything has been good.
Cool. And from our side, generally like so easy to work with you, so it's been a real pleasure. Obviously today coming here, same always happens, you know, we've got lots of snags to go through, lots of things to sort out, but generally the house, you like kind of the condition, the style?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from all the updates you share with me, like I had sort of an idea of what it would look like. It's even better to see it in person, see what the situation is, and yeah, like you say, it needs a little bits here and there, but the interior, everything you've done is like to kind of what I would expect or what I was looking to do. So yeah, all good.
Good. And do you think future buy-to-lets will be in this area? Do you think you'd try different areas? What are your thoughts, having spent a bit of time here?
Yeah, I think a bit of both. Like it's sort of depending on when the next opportunity presents itself. The numbers will kind of dictate a little bit, but equally the area that I've had a look at and kind of is definitely high on the list. But equally, if something else comes up with the numbers make sense, then equally open to that as well. So depends. But yeah, definitely more kind of the northern side of things, and yeah, South Yorkshire or West Yorkshire, or kind of just around this kind of areas, seeming to be where there's opportunity to kind of replicate what we've done here in terms of the refurb.
No, I think so. I think it's a real hotspot over the next few years, like investing in these areas. But no, you're taking the right approach, like figures, not feelings, isn't it? So if something else comes up, it's good numbers, different area, go for it. I'm genuinely really pleased you're happy. And that's the main thing, and think it'll be a really good buy to let. I think the end value will do the talking, and obviously the rent. I'm just hoping to come in and collect the keys for number 9 Street. Thanks. Plan is, when this lady comes back, is to, if we can, go and pick up the keys, collect the keys from the letting agency to go and do a check-in on the property that we have taken over for our client or help them purchase, which is a turnkey investment, but it does have still a few little jobs, a few little niggly things that need to be done. We had a slight slow start because of a contractor that was meant to go and do the odd jobs around the house, never turned up, never collect the keys, so we had to move on to a different contractor, but that did mean like a 1 to 2 week delay, which is really annoying, but we're on top of it now, and I just want to go and check in on some of the works that have been done, or see basically what hasn't been done, make sure that it moves on as quickly as possible. Arrived in Oakenshaw, which is only about 20 minutes or so away from where we just were in Dewsbury. This is a good turnkey 2-bedroom house. I say it's a turnkey. It's got lots of little jobs that just need to be sorted out prior to renting out, but it's a great little terraced house. I'll start by opening the front door and showing you just opposite. There's literally a nice little courtyard area. So because it's a back-to-back terrace, again, you wouldn't typically get a garden, or if you did, you don't know what size garden you'll get, but actually there is actually a fully fenced off garden for this property, which is great. It's a nice added bonus. Small little kitchen behind me with lots of little jobs, as I've said, that need to be done. So adjusting the doors on the kitchen, and actually just a really good tidy and a clean down. In here, it's just like small jobs. It's like scuffs on the wall, it's a new carpet, it's rehanging one of the doors, which should have been left up, but that's just lying here in the sitting room. And apart from that, it's obviously just tidying up bits like this, which are really untidy. They don't have to be done, but it's in an ideal world. We want to rent out a nice house, be proud of it, and hopefully get the right tenant. The carpet here needs to be redone on the stairs and going upstairs. Bedroom, obviously, nice size. The doors here are for the fitted wardrobe, which you'll see in a second, so they need to be mended. Same again, carpet, wallpaper needs to be replaced and well, probably stripped down and then just painted over. So it's like really easy jobs that we can get probably 1, possibly 2 contractors in to do the majority of things, and then just a flooring company to do these. But good turnkey house. We find these for our clients, and the only other things in addition to what I've just mentioned really are certificates. So the EICR, the gas safety report, they'll need to be done. Obviously we need to check that there are the right fire alarms, and obviously we need to check if there's a carbon monoxide alarm, which as of October 2022, they are now mandatory. We've always done them anyway, but now they're mandatory. So fire alarm on each level, CO2 alarm, and then in the bathroom there's just a couple of things like bulb, general tidy up, mend the flush on the toilet, stuff like that. For anyone looking to do one of these sort of properties, you know, the only thing I can really recommend to you above and beyond this one is just the more that you can get off the asking price, obviously the better, because that's immediately equity from day one. You know, with a turnkey house, you're not necessarily going to get money back from it straight away. It's more a case of let's buy it, let's rent it out, and then in the future maybe we'll refinance it in 2 or 5 years time. So you want to try and get a discount, and then the other thing just being you don't want too much maintenance. So you want to check that it's got, you know, a new fuse board, hopefully like an up-to-date boiler, gas combi boiler maybe, and you just want to go around each room and go, right, how much maintenance is there here? Are they major works, or is it just a case of, right, we need to go around and paint it, we need to do little odd jobs? Because if so, that's going to be your typical turnkey property anyway. You can just pick them up, get help from a letting agent, and you can get them rented out really quick. The only thing that I'm really here for today isn't to check in on a refurb like we'd normally, but it's really just to check in on what works need to be done. So we've sent a contractor around who's helped obviously advise what they're going to help do, but I just wanted to come around and make sure we haven't missed anything. For example, you know, I'm taking a picture of this window because this bottom pane has actually blown, so that needs to be replaced. I can see the windowsill needs to be repainted. There's a multitude of different little bodgy works that have been done in the room, which we'll obviously get rid of and put right. And apart from that, really it's just a case of repainting the skirting, probably repainting some of the walls. So when I say take pictures, it's literally just to A, remember it, because obviously I'm going to make some notes, B, send it to the client, and then 3, obviously be able to send that to the contractor and say, look, this is what we need replacing, can you come back to me once you've done it? Can you provide me evidence that you've done it? And then obviously we can pay and sign that off. So another blown window frame here, another blown window pane, not window frame. We're back. So just arrived at the hotel, well, quite clearly. First day done, busy day, productive day. I really enjoyed it. I must say, actually, that's like a question I get asked a lot is, you know, why do I continue to do these trips if I'm also trying to hire people to help me do viewings, to help me make offers, you know, to help me project manage properties? Why on earth am I traveling backwards and forwards so much? And the honest answer is A, I think it's great to meet up with team members, meet up with clients at the properties, still check in and make sure that properties are reaching the quality that they should do when we're handing them over to a letting agent, but also just because I really damn enjoy it, which I think is the main thing. So checked in at a new hotel tonight, which is one I've not stayed in before. It's called the Fairway in Barnsley. Pretty good. Bit dated, but pretty good. Don't know how much you can see. Pretty big room as it goes. But yeah, just sat down. Time is currently 10 to 8. First things first, get a bit of food in. As you can see on the road, my meal choices, not so great. But I'm sitting down watching a bit of Matt Armstrong, who, if anyone doesn't watch, highly recommend it. Clearly property is my absolute #1 passion, but a secondary passion would be cars. Not the Punto is probably not a good example of that, but generally I like cars, and obviously he's rebuilding an older Lamborghini Murcielago, so I really enjoy what he does with his videos, with his content. So sitting down, eating a bit of food, watching him, and then I'm going to crack on with some work, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning. Arrived in Blackpool this morning, of all places. Been spending actually a bit more time here as of lately, as of more investors are looking to invest in this area. The rents in comparison to the purchase prices over the last few years have been phenomenal, which even with the increase in interest rates means that there's enough profit still in a lot of these deals. So today I'm here in one of the avenues in FY1. We're in one of the avenues where there's some really nice 2 and 3 bed terraced houses, semi-detached houses, which are perfect for long-term rentals. And we are meeting client Adam, who's just buying one at the moment, and we're just doing kind of like a final check, final sign off before he does exchange and complete. Now at this point we weren't able to get a huge amount of footage. That is because there is a lady living there, she has children, and we wanted to respect her privacy as well as respect the privacy of our investor purchasing this property. But what we did was basically go around the house, inspect the condition, meet the tenant, and really this was the final visit, the final sign off prior to the investor going ahead and purchasing this property, which I am pleased to say is very, very close close to exchange and completion. Quick stop off to get some oil, very exciting, but actually got to treat this car with some love and attention. She has now officially done, I think it's over 25,000 miles in going up and down the motorway in different trips, and touch wood, although there is no wood, as always provided me with safety and often with no maintenance really. So good car overall. So oil secured, just topping it up. We're coming to the end of our trip really. On the leg back, we've been away for a couple of days. I actually just posted a YouTube video and it kind of reminds me of a topic which I keep seeing coming up at the moment. I've spoken to people about it at events. I've had it, with YouTube videos in the comments. People ask me about it. And the kind of topic, I guess if I was to explain it rather than give it a name, is overall it's the negativity around buying buy-to-lets. It's the not feeling comfortable about telling certain family members, around telling friends if they aren't in the same financial position. It's feeling guilty sometimes about owning, 3, 4, 5 properties when maybe someone can't afford one. And I think it's quite toxic as a conversation. We always joke, or I always joke, because I'll know if a YouTube video is doing well because the comments change from great video, thanks for sharing this, oh, this is really, informative, to then all of a sudden it becomes landlords are leeches and, I hope everything goes wrong. The market's going to flip on its head because of interest rates. And all of a sudden I see this negative stuff coming through and I'm like, oh, well, I know the video's doing well because it's gone from, that inside circle of my subscribers who always get served my videos and they watch every week. The next layer out is kind of like people that keep up to date with me every now and then and might catch up on my videos and also subscribers. And then the outer reach of that, if a video is doing well, YouTube will then promote it again, but it'll start to hit people which are perhaps a bit more negative towards buy-to-let, towards us owning houses when they can't. And that's when all these comments start to come through, and hence why I know if a video's doing well, because it's reached that outer audience. But I think it's absolutely the wrong mindset to have. Yes, perhaps it is unfair that some people can go on to buy 3, 4, 5 properties, but there's potentially a reason why. It's because of they want better for themselves, they want better for their families, and maybe they actually have an element where they actually want to provide really good housing. So I think as landlords, provided that we are buying good investments, we are providing good homes and looking after them, not letting people live in damp, cold, horrible houses, which I don't actually think happens as often these days. I think the new era of investors actually want to come in and we want to refurbish properties. I think we actually want to hold properties to make money, but also as an element of pride for providing housing as well. So I think if you have the right intentions, yes, we are going for profits, we're going for return on investment, but also we're going for good quality homes. I think what's wrong with us doing this? We want to work hard. A lot of us do work insanely hard, save well, we're very kind of financially savvy, and then we want to then obviously take that and invest it into something which isn't necessarily stocks and crypto, but actually is something which is like a real physical asset which pays us monthly and might go up in value. So I guess just wanting to address the fact that it's a very toxic conversation, but I think you need to have people in your circle which you can talk to about it, where you don't feel like they're judging you. And I think you absolutely have to just block out some of the noise and go ahead and invest anyway, because it's the right thing for you, your family, it's the right thing for potentially the tenant that's going to rent your house. So try and block out that noise of the people that don't agree with it, because maybe there's something about their life they don't like, maybe they haven't put the work in that you have. That's very much my thought anyway, my opinion. Maybe drop us a comment below if you think differently or if you agree. It would be really interesting to hear. And I'm back in the office. So it's a new day. Had a good successful trip, a very quick trip. It was only really like a day and a half in the north, whereas I would particularly prefer to do 3 days normally. Makes it worth the drive and the run up the motorway. You stay in a hotel for a night or two, and then obviously you get maximum chance to meet with people, view properties, obviously catch up with the team and everything. But it was a flying visit. I did need to get up there, so I've done it, completed it. But that is why there isn't a huge amount of footage from yesterday, day 2, because it was really, we just work in the morning, had a couple of meetings, had to get on the motorway before we hit peak rush hour traffic. What I thought I'd do for the final segment of this video is the Q&A. If you follow me on Instagram, I'll put my handle somewhere around here if you don't, so that you can follow me. And I put a Q&A up. I said, look, I'm going to answer a Q&A. I haven't done it in a while. Send me some questions. So I'm just going to roll through them now. I haven't really looked at them, so it'd be quite interesting to do them off the cuff. What keeps you motivated every day? I would say for me, it's definitely the idea of progression. I'm very much someone that finds fulfillment in taking a step forward every day, learning a new skill, I guess conquering a new challenge. So overall it's progression, but what keeps me motivated when I wake up is the thought of, I want to create a life which is so different. I want an extraordinary life versus just the standard, go to work 9 till 5, Monday to Friday job. By the time I'm 35 or late 30s, want to be, in multiple countries, spending months away at a time. Not necessarily to get away from work. I will still be working because I love working. I love progression at the end of the day. But to be able to have that kind of location and time freedom if I wanted it. I want cool things. I want outrageous things, and I'm not scared to admit that, because that's the person I am. I don't necessarily need materialistic things, but I'd like them. So other than the fact it's, the challenge of building something amazing and big, which is Property X, it's just everyday progression for me, and working towards the fact that when I set out in property, the goal was to get financially free within 5 years. I'm still well on that track, just taking a very different course and journey to get there. And I'm so grateful for what the last couple of years has brought anyway. So next one would be, what would be the one thing that you'd say to young Justin if you could go back, and why? This is so easy for me. I answered this on a recent podcast I did with Jack, and what I would say to myself if I was younger, let's say I'm 18 or 20, is just take massive risk and massive action. I know it sounds like, why would you want to take massive risk? But just go for everything that you want, and don't worry about the security, the risk of a job and a salary. Take massive action, take big risks in the hope for big rewards. Because if you take a risk and you put in the work and it's calculated risk, you are far more likely to see that exponential growth earlier on. Whereas I did it the wrong way around. I was, all about security, a job, career progression, when I was 18 to 25, and then I got to 25 and I thought, this isn't the life I want. I want to change it. I want something different. And then it took me a few years to figure out and to work out how I was going to change my life. And then there I was at kind of, 27, 28, suddenly deciding to then take the risk. So I did it the wrong way round. And that's all I would say to a younger version of me, is to just start this sooner and take risks earlier on. Did you get education? If so, what? I didn't for the first property. I wish I had. I made a few mistakes, but I guess you could say that was my education, was making mistakes, and I spent the money in that sense. When looking at that first property, I bought that. I put a large amount of the savings I had into that first property, and then I was kind of back to low amount of funds, and therefore I had to get a mentor to teach me how can I go out and buy more properties without much or any money. So that's what he taught me then at that stage, was right, you can do this. If you're good at finding deals, if you can do the BRR strategy or flips, then you can go out, you can work with an investor, raise finance from them, and you can complete projects, especially given the experience that you now have. So I did. It was a mentor, is the short answer to that question. Next question, do you use investor finance? If so, what do you do if you can't pull all the money out in repayment? So when you're repaying them, what happens if you can't pull all the money out the deal and you haven't got enough money to repay them? Like, obviously I've just answered in the last question really that I do work with private investor finance. That's been a big part of my journey ever since that first deal really. I've kind of worked with raising funds as a way of doing BRRs, doing flips, and that's been a big part of my process and my journey. And obviously now it's building a sourcing business. So I do use investor finance, and for one of my first or second projects, I didn't pull all the money out and I couldn't repay all the investor, but I knew that from day one. I knew that this was a good deal, but as a good deal, it was likely to leave in 10 to 12,000. So I knew that if I was, borrowing a certain amount from the investor, I was going to be short from paying them, about 10 to 12,000 plus their interest. So at that point, that's when it's important for you to have a bit of your own capital, whether that's from savings or earnings or what have you, or that's the point in which you need to, before you even start this process, you need to get a little bit behind you. And my mindset was, if I can go through this full process borrow someone's money, and at the end, all I've got to do is put in 10 or 11,000 of my own funds, my own savings, well, that's still a great result. I've got a property, I've paid the investor back, so I've now got the trust from them and the proven result, and I've got a buy-to-let that I will hold on to, make money from, and it'll have only cost me 10 or 11,000 pounds. That's still a great result from me. So I try not to overly worry about the fact that if I can't repay them back, if I have that money. Obviously, if you don't have that money, then it's a very different story. If you are worried about taking on someone's money because you aren't going to be able to repay it, then something is wrong. Either you don't have enough money, you don't have the confidence in the deals you're looking at, and I would tread carefully before borrowing that money, if that makes sense. What's your main focus for the next 12 months? It's a really good question. I'm still continuing to buy. I have 2 purchases going through, albeit very, very slow. And that's kind of holding me up a little bit, or holding my funds up, because they're just sort of sitting there, and I wanted to get them into the deals and start thinking about the next 2. But it's to continue buying even with these inflation rate rises. I think it's important to not let the outside world hinder what you're doing too much. Obviously, we have to be aware of it, we have to adapt to it. But if you let it bleed into your mindset, then you won't be investing this year. And then before you know it, 2 years will pass, then 10 years will pass, and you won't have invested. So still doing what I do, on the lookout for more flips as well. Would always love to do more projects where I can flip them on quickly. I've obviously shared a video on this in the past. I like the ones where I can secure them at a good enough price, where I can buy it, do no refurb, and then sell it on to someone else. Not in terms of sourcing, but in terms of flipping. So I've bought the property myself, I've then not done a refurb, and then sold it on to someone else. And if I can find a deal like that where I make 15, 20k like I did last year, and don't have to do a refurb, I'm all in for those. Want to do a couple of those a year, just to keep replenishing capital along the way for the which goes against the properties, obviously, where I do have to leave money in. Someone has said, should I start with buy-to-let or sourcing? I would say it depends on your goals. If you have capital and you work full-time, then you are money rich or funds rich, but you are time poor. Therefore, you might do a strategy which isn't too hands-on. So you are trying to do something like buy-to-let, where you can purchase it, takes time and effort in the beginning, but then your time requirement is smaller. Whereas if you are low on funds and you have lots of time, then of course sourcing is the better route for you, the better strategy, because you don't need money to get started, you actually just need time. But if you're thinking of doing sourcing and you work full time, you've got a really busy life, it will be very, very difficult, because it does require a certain amount of input from you. It's an active business at the end of the day. Are you doing refurbs yourself, or have you hired a team? I have every now and then done parts of a refurb, but A, my quality is never as good as a builder's, well, not always. Most of the time I'm not as good as the builder's, and B, it's just not a good use of my time. So where I used to jump in, I wanted to learn it and be part of it. I feel like I have learnt certain stages of the process right now, and therefore I don't need to be jumping in doing that. I'd far prefer to factor in the costs of not doing any of that work, for a builder to do all of that work, and if I factor that in from day one, then I don't have to lift up a tool or a hammer. So I have a team, depending which area. Obviously for my sourcing business, I have a team in West Yorkshire that help me out. I have a completely separate team in the Northwest. Anything on the bungalow down south, which is finished now, bar the garden, which is currently being done, that is being done by myself. Everything else is done by teams. So yeah, I would highly recommend, maybe get a little bit involved in your first one, but I would quickly want to phase out of that. If you're wanting to be a long-term investor, buy lots of properties, I'd try and get yourself out of the process of jumping in and doing works, because then you're not really an investor as such. Maybe you have a competitive advantage because you can pay more for properties because you keep your refurb lower, but now every single project requires a time input from you. So I'd try and take that out if you can, to become a better longer term investor. Anyway, that's it for the Q&A. There are loads more questions, but I think it would just drag out too long. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you tuning into these videos and look forward to seeing you in a future video.